You are listening to All Burgundy and Go Everything, powered by the Urban Sports Scene and Fox Sports Radio, 96.9 FM and 1340 AM. Hopewell, Virginia. Hosts are Wole and Ray. The homies Mo and Glenn are out. We also have host of Locked On Falcons podcast, Aaron Freeman. What is going on, Aaron?
It's going good, man. Glad to be talking Falcons Commanders with you guys, especially with the Falcons coming off a win. It would be a tougher week if they were coming off a loss. I know for the Commanders, it was a pretty
Hard.
tough 10 days, right? You got extra days to stew on it because of the Thursday night game. So, yeah, we'll see what's what this Sunday. But I think it would be a fun matchup between these two teams.
Definitely. Before we talk about like the game, can you tell our listeners about your podcast?
Yeah, Locked On Falcons. It's a daily podcast, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, on pretty much any podcast platform you're looking for, including on YouTube, and just 30 minutes a day talking about the Atlanta Falcons.
It's exciting. It's exciting times, right, for the Falcons, though. In terms of like Bijan's amazing. We'll talk about him later, though. He's amazing. Hey, before we get into it, we're gonna get into our particulars. Hey, subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Just search All Burgundy and Go Everything. Also, tweet us at AB_Errrything. Excuse me. Hit us up on IG at ABG_Errrything. I like our All Burgundy and Go Everything Facebook page. Make sure you subscribe to our All Burgundy and Go Everything YouTube channel as well. All right, it's time for the pregame. Here's what we have on tap. Like I mentioned, we're going to get some insight on the Commanders' next opponent, the Atlanta Falcons. All right, so let's get right into it. Sunday at 1 p.m., the Washington Commanders travel to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. Falcons quarterback Desmond Ridder is coming off a great game against the Houston Texans, throwing for 329 yards and a touchdown pass to Bijan Robinson, who I mentioned, who was just like that. What is your confidence in him going into the game against the Commanders?
Well, the thing with Desmond Ridder so far, if you even go back all the way to his days at Cincinnati, he's never lost a game at home that he started. That was true in college. That's been true in the NFL. He's right now 5-0 at home with the Atlanta Falcons. And so because it's a home game for the Falcons, I'm pretty confident that streak will continue. That's really about it, though, because like you go from a really bad performance in week 4 to the Jaguars in London to a really good performance. Like the week 4 game was his worst game. The week 5 game against the Texans was probably his best game that he's played in his NFL career. And so he'll probably be somewhere in the middle. It'll probably kind of balance out a little bit more this week. But yeah, so I think because it's at home, because he's generally played well at home, I feel pretty good at this point in time. But it's been such a roller coaster the last couple of weeks that like you can never be super, super confident.
What's the temperature with him within the Atlanta fans in terms of talk radio? Just over there. What's the talk with Desmond Ridder? Because we get something different about our quarterback. That's why.
It basically depends on the game. Like last week, it was he's done. Bench him, trade him, get somebody out. This week, it's he's back. It's going to be that way all season long. That's just kind of how it goes with quarterbacks. Like no one can just like let it all play out before they make a decision. You just got to have to ride the roller coaster week to week. So I think this week it's a good week. Hopefully next week it'll be a good week, but we'll just sort of see how that goes.
Yeah, I will say that you have a backup named Taylor Heineke that used to be over here, and they used to clamor for him to come in games. Do they clamor for him to come in games over there?
They were last week. Last week they were definitely pushing the Heineke hive.
Wow, so it's a real thing. The hive is a real thing.
Yeah, there are fans who are not knowledgeable. They are just emotional, and they ebb and flow as the season does. But we got to remember, just like in Washington with Howell, they're young. This is still basically a rookie season for Desmond Ridder and for Howell, and that's why I love this matchup, because these two guys are comparable as to where they are in their careers and how they're treated by the fan bases and the media. But the people inside the building, they know what these guys are capable of, and both of them are making progress. So that's going to be fun to see. I have so much that I can say. Being a Falcons fan and covering the Commanders is kind of annoying. So whenever they play, it's always special. But at the same time, the last 2 matchups, it's been fluke victories. You had the Heineke game in Atlanta. Terry pushes off, no call. But the refs had to give the Commanders that call for the simple fact that Chase got a horrible roughing the passer call against Matt Ryan. And then last year, we drive all the way down Atlanta, I should say, drives all the way down to what was like the 3-yard line.
Yeah, 3-yard line. Kendall Fuller.
All you gotta do is punch it in. But of course, Mariota throws, Deron Payne tips it, and that's game time. So 2 fluke victories, and that's what I think about when I think about the Commanders playing the Falcons. Is they found a way somehow to get it done. So I'm not as confident as you are, bro, about the home winning streak going to continue for Desmond Ridder. But let me get to my question. Sorry.
He was venting for real. Like, you see what he was really venting.
I'm a real fan, though. Like, for example,
you've been holding that in.
He was.
Let me tell you, Aaron, Washington fans have been asking for Kyle Pitts in the trade, bro. They're saying Atlanta's wasting them, but they don't watch Atlanta games. So hopefully we can put that to bed, and Kyle Pitts can have a second week in a row where he just performs at a high level. But anyway, defensively, Atlanta's ranked either 7th or 9th total in the league, but only 5 sacks. That annoys me too, by the way. But this defense is flying around. They look much better. What's your thoughts about this defense matching up against the Commanders?
Yeah, the Falcons defense has basically kept them in every game, right? Like any chance where another team was gonna sort of run away with the game, the Falcons defense would find a way to get a stop. They get a turnover to keep them in the game. And obviously in the games where the Falcons won, the offense took advantage of those opportunities. In the games that they lost, they did not. And, I think it's now built a level of confidence in this defense now 5 weeks in a row that it's like, I think they're going to keep this going, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I think Washington is going to be a test for them because, I do feel like Washington's offense has the firepower to be a really potent unit. The good thing is that the last couple, someone told me today that Chicago was like dead last in sacks, and then they got a bunch of sacks against Washington. Next week, they got the Giants, who are like basically tied with the Falcons for like dead last in sacks. So it's like Washington has been a get right game for bad pass rushes, right? Yeah. And so you kind of think the Falcons will be able to take advantage. They have 5 sacks this year. The hope is they can double that number against Washington, and that's kind of sort of the story on this Washington team with how, as well as he's played, as good a quarterback as I think he's shown this year, he can make some mistakes. We saw some turnovers against Buffalo. We've seen him take a ton of sacks, and I don't think that's all on the offensive line. So I feel like, given how this Falcons defense has played over the first 5 games, and given this potential matchup, I expect the defense to once again put this Falcons offense in a position where in the fourth quarter they'll have a chance to win the game, and it's just be a question of whether Desmond Ridder can and the offense can do that. And so far, again, in 3 home games, they've been able to make the plays in the fourth quarter. They outscored teams 41-7 in 3 home games, and just in the fourth quarter alone. So that's what gives me the confidence. But all streaks must come to an end. But I'm hopeful that it won't be this week.
I will say this though, because we have a Twitter or X poll, because you got to call it X. The X poll says, "Do you have confidence in this defense for Commander fans? Do you have confidence in this defense to stop Desmond Ridder?" So just to put your mind at ease, right? 79% of our fans says no. They don't have any confidence stopping Desmond
I know,
Ridder.
Understandably.
21% says yes. Just saying,
here's what I'm gonna point out. After the Bills game, which was we thought was rock bottom, but it turned out Chicago was rock bottom. You bounce back against Philly. Now, I know Philly is a divisional game. It's a sort of rival opponent, but I believe they'll bounce back. I mean, you cannot come out playing much harder than you did against the Bears. You have to establish a level of confidence in your group. And if the Falcons get the ball first, I think that first possession is going to be something that sets the tone for both teams. Because Atlanta's confident, just like the Bears were confident. If we get the ball, we're marching down the field.
Yeah.
The Bears were a bit desperate. They had a death. Atlanta, now kind of what we're seeing is there's some confidence, there's some swag on defense. Jesse Bates has been a great addition, but I think they need to come in focused and look at a team. And Washington is wounded. They are wounded. They are bleeding, and you got to attack it. But Washington is much better than what people think. If we remember the last time these teams played in Atlanta, Curtis Samuel played like a Debo Samuel role, and it worked out well. And as you just alluded to, Aaron, this team does have the weapons in Washington to cause problems. So it's going to be a chess match. I don't think it's going to be a game where one team pulls away. I think it'll be a tight game down to the wire, and that's where Atlanta has done well at home. It was scary in every game that they've won so far. Green Bay, definitely that Houston game. But I think both teams are even. I've been telling you that, Wole, for a while. These are 2 even teams, especially when you consider the quarterbacks and where they are in their careers. And the coaching staff.
Oh, yeah, I think the coaching staff makes it even. But because Washington coach staff's trash. But in terms of like, I want to go back to something Aaron said. 'Cause I totally agree with him.
Mhm.
Like, it is a feel. I do think the Atlanta's going to get like they'll feel good. They'll get some sacks out of this. Like they won't. That number will be erased in terms of talk about Atlanta has a low number of sacks. Sam Howell holds the ball. Add on to the left tackles that Washington has, left and right tackle who Washington have. They give up sacks. Also, you got Calais Campbell. So Calais Campbell will be able to get some pressure. I don't think Washington is really going to stop Calais Campbell at all. Like, I don't see that being a thing.
He's a little banged up, though. Right, Aaron? Calais Campbell?
Is he going to play, though? Will he play?
He probably will play, but he might be on a pitch count. But he's
That's cool. He'll get some sacks.
He's looking for his 100 sacks. So this is the week where he can get it.
Yeah, he gets sacks.
Okay,
It won't even matter. Believe me.
You kind of see where Wole is. You see where the Washington fan base is. They're where Atlanta was after the Jacksonville game. Like, bring back Matt Ryan. Let's trade for a quarterback.
I ain't say bring nobody back.
I'm like, seriously.
Bro, did I say bring somebody back? I ain't say
no. But you're saying that Atlanta's going to get sacks. Atlanta,
they are going to get sacks. The Bears ain't getting no sacks. They got sacks.
Since John Abraham, I have not seen Atlanta get sacks consistently. The one time Grady Jarrett got to Brady last year, they caught a flag. So we don't get sacks.
Right. You watch games like I watch games. You watch these. You're local. Like you watch local games like I watch games. Everybody gets a sack against Washington. All right, let's keep it a buck. Everybody gets sacks against Washington.
Here's the thing, and I'm being real. Aaron can follow up with this because Aaron hasn't watched the Commanders like I have. If Atlanta gets sacks against the Commanders, then Atlanta's going to win because that's the only issue right now that I see that's glaring. I mean, I know the quarterback play; he's young, that's okay. But if Atlanta's defense gets sacks, man, that's going and gets the Commanders off the field and/or creates turnovers, that's going to be a problem for the Commanders, man.
I mean, they'll get sacks. I think Washington will have some opportunities in terms of like to make big plays because that's like
no doubt.
They have good skill position players. But to me, it's always predicated for Washington. And like I mentioned, I'm gonna keep saying it, is their defense. And that's the thing. Like your defense, Washington is giving up explosive plays, and they've made players who've been quiet, kind of feel good about themselves again. And that's why I mentioned Kyle. I want to mention Kyle Pitts because Ray mentions like folks talk about Kyle Pitts. Like in last game, he had a decent game last game. And now he's going into this game against a team that Washington has not stopped. And I'm going to keep this. They have not stopped anybody's number one threat pass catcher yet.
Jonnu Smith is a problem too, by the way.
No, I'm talking about your number one. I said your number one pass catching threat. Washington has not stopped a single number one pass catching option yet. And then you got a guy right now who, to me, Kyle Pitts is one of the most talented tight ends period in football. I've said this for years. Ray knows that. That, people are saying like, oh, he's not getting enough touches. He's not doing this. I think it's a feel-good game for him. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's a game he can get some money. You know what I'm saying? He can get some money. Won't he hold you?
Good.
So what do you think? You think Kyle Pitts is the game? This is the game for Kyle Pitts?
It should be. It should be, right? Washington's dealing with questionable secondaries. Is that a fair way to put it?
That's very fair. It's very fair.
Okay.
It's the linebacking core too.
Yeah, that's a bad one too.
Yeah.
It's fair. It's fair though. What you're saying is very fair.
You got a couple injuries at the safety position. Emmanuel Forbes has kind of struggled this year, and given his size concerns, and you got this big group of receivers that Atlanta has. Like, if I'm the Falcons, like my game plan is, anytime Emmanuel Forbes is out there on the field, we're throwing at him and we're running at him. We're gonna do one of the two things and make him, have to stop us. And if he stops us, power to it. But that's what that would be my game plan. I'm just like, where is number 13? I think is his number, right?
13, yeah.
Yeah. 13. Where's number 13? Let's go at him. And so I feel like that's a formula for success for the Falcons. And if that's through Drake London, if that's through Kyle Pitts, if that's through Jonnu Smith, if that's through Bijan Robinson, basically anybody can get it, I guess.
Hey, Aaron, I was part of the Falcons club that wanted Deron Payne in the offseason. I'll be honest. I don't know if you did. But what is your thoughts on Washington's front four? Because if they come to play, then that's going to make all the difference in the world in how this game goes.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the equalizer because the Falcons' offensive line has not been as good this year as they were last year, not only as run blocking, but also pass protection. Now, last week they were okay, right? They didn't – Will Anderson, you were concerned about him going off, and he didn't really go off. Yeah. And they lost their right tackle midway through the game, and Caleb McGarry and his replacement, Storm Norton, came in and played reasonably well. And, it's a question mark going into this game if Caleb McGarry is going to be healthy and start, or is it going to be Storm Norton? You don't like that matchup against Montez Sweat, who's a bully.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Allen has destroyed this Falcons offensive line each of the last couple of times. He blessed Jalen Mayfield when he was a rookie 2 years ago. I don't even remember who was the left guard who started that game last year. He blessed that dude. And we got another rookie starting this year in Matthew Bergeron, who's been kind of up and down. He's been okay for a rookie, but he'll probably get blessed by Jonathan Allen. And then, of course, Chase Young is having the best year of his career. So that's going to be a challenge. And Deron Payne, hey, he's pretty good too. So like it's the thing that Washington, I think, is going to be the thing that they're going to have to do, right? Because of the question marks that we're talking about in the secondary. They have to control the line of scrimmage, and they have the horses to do it. And given, we're coming off a game here in Atlanta where the offensive line wasn't the problem, but the first couple of weeks, the offensive line was kind of the problem. And so this is an opportunity for Washington to sort of say, like, okay, that Houston game was, the outlier, that was the fluke this season. And, the offensive line is going to continue to be a cause for concern for this Falcon team. And if they can do that, that's going to give, I think, Washington the best chance to, have Desmond Ridder have another rough outing again, and that will be their formula for success to potentially win this game. If it gets to a point where it's down to the final 2 minutes or whatever, and Atlanta has to drive the field and score, and if Washington's D-line is kicking the butts of the Atlanta's offensive line, that's going to be the thing that's going to help Washington win this football game. So that is probably the biggest concern I have in this matchup, is the Falcons O-line versus Washington's D-line. But we'll just sort of have to see if they show up.
How does Desmond Ridder hold up against the blitz? Is he calm? Does he navigate through it properly? How does he hold up against the blitz?
I would say he's okay. Like, I feel like there's been a couple of times the last couple of weeks where teams have been able to catch the Falcons sleeping on some blitzes.
Gotcha.
And it hasn't been like teams have been dialing up a ton of pressure. So it hasn't been a major issue, but it's just enough like sort of cracks in the armor that makes you think if someone really wanted to like really press this issue, maybe that it would be a bigger issue than it has been right now.
Got you. So in terms of like we talked about, we've already mentioned the Falcons in terms of like rushing the passer, but other than that, what would you say is a way Washington can attack the Falcons defense? Their offense can attack the Falcons defense.
I think this is going to be an interesting matchup for Jeff Okudah, who's a big physical corner, and I think was exactly what the Falcons needed last week, going up against Nico Collins, who was real hot, coming off a couple of really great games, but sort of that big against big was a good matchup. But I think because Washington has kind of all these smaller, quicker guys, and that's not really something that Jeff Okudah has shown that he's really good at defending. So I feel like if Washington basically just avoids AJ Terrell's side of the field, because these are the types of receivers that AJ Terrell has really done a good job against. This is sort of the Terry McLaurin, Calvin Ridley, Stephon Diggs types of pass catchers. So I think you just kind of go right at Jeff Okudah and test him and see, okay, is this, can we get you matched up against Samuel or McLaurin or Jahan Dotson, and can you stick with those guys? And if they can find some early success, I think that would be a way that I would probably try to attack.
And how would you think? And how would you, if following Atlanta and actually doing your research on Washington? If you were Atlanta, how would you think they should attack Washington?
I just think, I think they just go after Forbes, test Kendall Fuller. He had a rough one against Chicago, and see, like
they all got DJ Moore's work. They all got it.
They did. And so, like, I think you try to take advantage of the size you have. Like, I remember a couple of years ago, Cordero Patterson had a really big game against Washington.
Yeah, he did.
And so I just think last year, I think Washington played a game where they were willing to basically say we can out physical the Falcons, and they were successful at doing that. And I think the Falcons, I think you just try to do that to Washington this time, but also try to mix in, don't just simply run the football, but try to mix in some passing to take advantage of that weak secondary. So play action. I don't know if the Falcons have to change too much of how they want to play. I don't know. It's Washington's a weird team. It's hard to figure out
They're
what
very
this team
weird.
is.
No, they're very weird. They're very weird.
No,
It's
no,
like-
but to be real, Aaron, coming from my perspective and covering Washington, their secondary isn't the problem. It's the linebackers more is the issue. I think the secondary is definitely talented. Cam Curl he's a dog. The problem is Cody Barton. He's the issue. That's who you attack. You get Kyle Pitts matched up him, and I want to see Chase drop back in coverage against Atlanta. That would be dope because then you got mismatches all over the field. But to be real, I attended that game as a fan in DC when Atlanta played last season against the Commanders, and Terry was open against AJ. It's just Heineke could not get him the ball. He was just too small, and he didn't have the arm or the accuracy. So how has it? And you mentioned Jonathan Allen. I'm worried about him. And even Diami scares me a bit because Diami's open a lot. I don't know if people even see it. So just giving you some point of views to take for the remainder of the week, as you talk to your Falcon audience, this Commander team is not as bad as what they look. It's just them getting up to play to start out games has been the issue. If they come out strong, that's going to be a concern for Atlanta. But Atlanta's been in every game against some great teams. Detroit is a really, really good team this year, and Atlanta had chances. On the road with a young quarterback. Same thing against Jacksonville. They had their chances. I think that they're going to play strong like they always do. So it's going to come down to one of those last drives that I said. But I'm telling you, that linebacker core, do some research, man. That's the one that they come to play, which Cody Barton has not come to play since the season has started.
Trash.
That's where I think Atlanta needs to attack. And, running the ball as effective as Atlanta does, that play action, get those you get those tight ends against those linebackers. I think that's a great matchup.
But I will say this, the cornerbacks have been a problem because of miscommunication. They have been a problem. That's the explosive plays.
I like Forbes.
Problem. I like Forbes. Don't get me wrong. It's not a knock on Forbes. I like Forbes. I think he's lost confidence. So I will say that I think he's lost some confidence. So I do think if you wanted to attack, I don't argue not attacking him with Drake London. I don't argue that. To be honest with you, I do think you got to take shots against him because you got to see if he's going to if it's still mental with him, if he's still right. You got to take chances. It is what it is. But I'm not even sure if Forbes was going to be honest with you. I'm not even sure if Forbes is going to be getting that burn because they benched it for Danny Johnson anyway during that game.
I like Danny Johnson.
I'm just saying, who's to say that Forbes is going to be in the game in those situations? So, it's hard to tell. But I do think you should. To be real, you should attack the secondary because they're giving up explosive plays. They're giving up the chunk yard plays. DJ Moore gave everybody work. He gave everybody. He wasn't discriminating. You get that. You won't get that. You won't get that work. All of them got that work. So it happens for this team. Look, AJ Brown was on Forbes. He was giving them work. So if I was going to attack, and some of the stuff wasn't on just Forbes. It was safety play. And I'm not talking about Cam Curl. He's hurt now, but Defoe. Derek Forrest wasn't getting over on cover 2, where those plays were being explosive. So and then Derek Forrest is on IR now. So now they're going to play Percy Butler in that situation. So I feel like you should test. They should test it to keep it a buck. Mo, you got any questions, man?
Aaron, how you doing, man? I think you answered my initial question earlier about what was big in this game, and I thought it was the DBs, and you captured that. So I guess my question is because I think Washington's talent is at the wide receiver position on offense, and you guys' strongest part of your defense is your secondary with the addition of Jesse Bates and Okudah to go with AJ Terrell, who's coming off a Pro Bowl and such. Do you see any if Washington sticks with the run, do you see that presenting a problem for you all as an Atlanta Falcons fan? And do you see them sticking with it? I guess that's a two-part question. Do you see Washington sticking with the run, and can it be a problem for you guys as a defense because your secondary is the strongest part of your defense?
It can be a problem. Houston had a lot of success running it up the middle against Atlanta. Atlanta was sort of their game plan was kind of sell out for the outside run, given that Houston runs that sort of Shanahan style outside zone run scheme. But if you go back to the week 1 game against Carolina was basically pounding it right up the middle against the Falcons. And I think Washington with Brian Robinson has, what it takes to do that if they want to commit to that. As for if Washington is going to run the football, you guys tell me, because it don't look like Eric Bieniemy has any interest in running the football, even though
I could tell you
I feel like they probably to avoid the sacks and whatnot, and the fact that I'm a big fan of Brian Robinson. He's probably the second best running back named Robinson, on the planet. But like,
that was a good one, Aaron.
It's not bad being second place to that other guy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I feel like Washington has what it takes if they wanted to. And I think the other thing, because the Falcons aren't like this traditionally explosive team that's going to start fast. Like every game they just start slow. Like last week they got their first quarter touchdown of the season, and it was like, and then they didn't do anything for the rest of the first half. Like, so if you want to commit to if Eric Bieniemy is like, I do want to run the football, like you can probably do that, because Atlanta's not going to probably put up 27 points in the first half like Chicago or whatever to make you play one dimensional. So it's there for Washington if they want to do that, but it doesn't seem like there's any interest in running football.
I can answer your question on that. It's when your defense is giving them explosive plays off the rip, ain't nothing you're gonna do with running the football. They couldn't even, like, they looked at the Eagles game, they were gonna try to run the football. They had more balance. They had more balance in that game. That was the goal. That's why it was so close, like more balance. So like that game was always close. It was never they were far ahead. They could still run the football. But that they couldn't do that against the Bears because every play was a big play. Like, so you were already in the hole. Like once you didn't score on the first drive you had, they did run the football on that drive. Then the Bears scored again. It was like, all right, geez, like your defense ain't doing that. So we can't, now we're down, so we can't really run the football, because we run the football, by the time we do anything, game's gonna be over. You know what I mean? So like I think the Bears game is a little harder to kind of dissect. I think the Arizona game is fair. They didn't really run the football against the Arizona game. Really against the Broncos, it was towards the second half is when they ran the football. They didn't run it in. I mean, they didn't throw. They really didn't run the football in the first half. So, but that Bears, like the Eagles game, they had more balance and they did want to run the football. I think they wanted to run the football against. They did want to run the football against the Bears. That just wasn't working. The way that defense was playing, you giving up. They playing. You playing. But basically, they playing Madden, like old Madden, where you can score easy, and Washington, you know what I'm saying, where you can score easy, and Washington was on some, we on that new Madden stuff. We can't really work this system right.
hey, Aaron, talk about the home field advantage that Mercedes-Benz Stadium is, because the Commanders fans, they are on their way. They are coming. There's so many people that's coming down for that game. And last time they beat us at home, they posted a video from the promenade, like, we taking over. And the thing is, both teams are trying to find their way. We know who the best teams in the NFC are, so they can miss me with that. But they're still coming. The hot dogs are cheap. The beer is cheap, so they're on their way.
$6.
What's it like in terms of that stadium atmosphere, man?
The atmosphere is great. Especially, in the fourth quarter, man. Like it was cooking last week. It was like you could, the energy was just radiating off the turf, type of thing. So, like, I feel like it's going to be a dogfight, and it's just going to be a game where it's like, it might just be who has the ball last in that final 2 minutes, be the one that walks away with the win. So, I think the home field advantage is real, based off of what I've seen this year, and that's been something that the organization has been trying to instill, and I think the fans have definitely showed out this year. And fortunately for them, the product at home has been pretty good, at least in the fourth quarter. First quarter not so much, but it's like, you just like, hey, Falcon fans are known for they're infamous for maybe showing up to the stadium late, but like this year it's like, okay, if you're a little late to your seat, like you didn't miss anything, just get there by halftime and you're good to go. So like that's usually how it goes.
Can y'all imagine what that first quarter might look like? It might be 0-0 after the first quarter, because neither team comes out strong.
No, they don't. Washington does not, man. They really don't. They really don't. So, hey, Aaron, give us a prediction. Give us a prediction of the game, like score. I know you have Atlanta win. Give us a prediction in terms of score.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be neck and neck. It's going to be back and forth all game long. I could even see Washington taking an early lead in this one. But I'll roll with the Falcons 27-24. Yeah, I just, after beating Houston, and I felt like these two home games, I thought Houston was the more favorable matchup for the Falcons, And then Washington laid that egg against Chicago, and I was like, "Oh, like
they're beatable." I know, believe me. That's what Doc Walker said, right? They're beatable. Like Atlanta looking this game like this is it.
But like I know Washington. I know Washington is better than what they showed on Thursday night. So it's like it was just like, it's like, is Washington? They're better than that's why I say like they're a weird team, because it's just like at home they've been laying some stinkers, and on the road they've been killing it. So like again they're on the road. So like again I think you'll get a much better version of Washington this week. So I think it'll be a very close game, but I'll have the Falcons edge it out.
Hey, Wole, one more question. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, bro.
Aaron, who you give the coaching edge to? Arthur Smith or Ron Rivera? That is a matchup that nobody
I got you.
cares about.
I got it. Arthur Smith. That's what my end. Arthur Smith.
Look, if you'd asked Falcon fans a week ago, they wouldn't have agreed with you. So it's just this is the way the roller coaster of an NFL season is. You come off of an embarrassing loss like that, you want to fire everybody. Everybody wanted to fire Arthur Smith a week ago. Everybody wants to fire Ron Rivera this week. If Washington take care of business, you'll be like, it's all good, Ron. Man. It's all Riverboat Ron.
And we stay trying to fire Ron. Even when he win, we question when he win. We be like,
it's an uphill battle for Ron because they got new ownership and whatnot, and so like they're new owners are looking for any excuse to fire the coach. Because I know Arthur Blank, when he hired, when he first bought the Falcons, he was just like, Dan Reeves, I don't care what you've done for the last 30 years. Like you lost a couple of games because your quarterback got hurt. I don't care. Get out of here. So Ron's got a tough road ahead of him. So they got to get their season back on track.
You know why this has been dope, Aaron, having you? Because you obviously represent the Falcons. You cover the team. Wole and I and Mo, I guess, cover the Commanders. But Mo is a Giants fan. He's got the worst fandom on here right now. So at least we're not in last in that position. So we're doing all right. Even if, no matter who wins this game, it won't matter because we are not the Giants.
Man, Aaron.
I ain't saying nothing.
You just catching strays, man.
It's been some long days over here, and they refuse to take us off national TV just to watch us crumble in front of the entire country. Like, I'm good with. Let me take my extra piece at 1:00. It'll be just me and the diehard Giants fans just streaming it from wherever we were at. But they keep putting us on national television. This is the third national television game in 6 weeks.
They keep on national TV though.
National television in front of the whole United States of America to see.
Hey, man, I got real tears, bro.
As if Evan Neal is still not the right tackle over there.
Hey, we doing all right. Wole, Aaron, we are doing all right, man. We need to support this brother. Let's be there for this brother.
I watch y'all games. I watch y'all games with excitement because at least the ball is going to be moved.
Who's the host of Locked On Giants?
Robinson. Bijan is going to do something ridiculous. It's going to look like 26 up in New York before his knee went to hell. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still, Commanders. The Commanders have a plethora of weapons I can watch. I said earlier in the off season, I don't know what it is about this Commanders team, but I'm interested, and I'm steady interested. I'm watching Sam Howell throw it, whether y'all winning or not. I'm like, maybe there's something there, but we pay $40 million to somebody, and we can't get done. We can't get a first down.
Always go.
Hey, brother, we here for you, brother.
We're about to end the show. Hey, Aaron, before we end the show, do you want to plug your podcast one more time, man?
So check out Locked On Falcons 5 days a week, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Yeah. We're doing all right at Locked On Falcons. Locked On Giants, not so much.
I know, right? I know that's right. And how can folks catch you on social?
I just recently got suspended from Twitter, so
X is like something different. Not right now. I got you.
Yeah. Hit me up in like 2 months when I get off suspension.
Anyway, man. Hey, thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it. Anyway, you've been listening to All Burgundy and Gold Errrything, powered by the Urban Sports Theater, Fox Sports Radio, 96.9 FM and 1340 AM. Hopewell, Virginia, for ages. You dig? Deuces. Hey, we are out.